What's up, Professor Wergeles here. Today we're going to go over creating an Amazon AWS instance. What you need to do is make sure you go back to your email and accept the classroom invitation. Then you're going to come over here to Amazon AWS Educate, and you should see my course here. Now, doesn't matter what semester you're on, it's going to be the same. You're going to click Go to Classroom, and it's going to open up in a sub account which has $100 credit. That way you do not get charged. Now, if you're going to the AWS console through the Educate portal, or you're just going to AmazonAWS.com, it doesn't really matter. Setting up the account will be the same. Okay, so if I'm going to the AWS console, I would sign in and I would go to EC2. If I'm going through the portal, the AWS portal, I would click Go to Classroom, Continue. Okay, you're going to see once I get to the dashboard, so you have to accept. And once I get to the dashboard, you're going to see I'm in some Vocarium. Now, this may change over time. It may not be the same company. It really doesn't matter. But what you'll go to is make sure you go to the right classroom, and then make sure you go to the AWS console. Okay, so you'll see the credits, and then it'll say AWS console here. And now I'm to the same console as I was earlier. So here's the dashboard with a regular AWS account. Here's going to be the dashboard with your Amazon AWS Educate account. Okay, I have two accounts logged in at the same time, so let me log out. Let me try to come back in. And you'll see it's under some weird account. So it's under Vocarium. You'll see here VOC Starsoft or StartSoft, and then my user ID and corresponding information. So it's the same. So I'm either going to click on EC2 on the regular dashboard, or it's going to be here through the Educate portal. So I'm going to click on EC2. You'll also see services up here in the top. You can also click on EC2 from there. And you want to make sure you're in the same region. So North Virginia or Ohio. Normally, you're going to try to pick a server that's closest to you. If I picked one in California, every time my users make a request, it has to go all the way out to California and all the way back to the user's local machine. So it has to travel across the line. And that is just not a good user experience. It may take 10, 20 seconds for your page to load. Whereas if you click a server or select a server closest to your users, then the server or website would open up quicker. So make sure you try to select a region closest to you. Okay, North Virginia or Ohio, the default's North Virginia. I'm going to select it. If you select Ohio, that's also fine. They're both pretty similar in distance. The main thing is to make sure that you're on that same location each time you log in. Sometimes it'll default to North Virginia, and you set up a server in Ohio, and you're not going to see it. It'll say 0, and you'll freak out, and you'll feel like you lost your server, you lost all your work, but that's not true. Make sure you look and make sure it's in the same location every time you log in. That's the first thing that I check. And then on the EC2 dashboard, you'll see launch instance. Okay, and they actually have a new UI experience. Let me turn this on so it looks the same for both. Okay, this is what it should look like. I'm going to click the launch instance button. It can be done in a few different places. So I'm going to select it here. And then I have options. Now, they used to have Amazon Linux 1. They got rid of it. They're doing Amazon Linux 2. And I like Amazon Linux instances because it provides support for some basic software and systems. So it already provides support for some of these libraries. However, they had got rid of Amazon Linux 1. So I don't want to make videos on Amazon Linux 2 and then they get rid of that later. So a good alternative would be to set up a Ubuntu server. Ubuntu 18, Ubuntu 20, Ubuntu 16's down here. They're all similar. So I think Ubuntu is a good instance to use, a good server type to use. It's kind of the standard now for Linux systems. Everybody's using Ubuntu. Red Hat used to be the standard, but then they started charging a lot of money for it. So if I start up a Red Hat server, it's going to be like $60 a month because you have to pay for that Red Hat license. The Amazon Linux server is one of the cheapest servers to start. And then Ubuntu is also very cheap to start because Ubuntu is also open source. So I'm going to select Ubuntu 18. Make sure you select the right version. Otherwise, you may have trouble later on in the semester. I'm going to keep it to 64-bit. I'm going to use an x86. Then select. And make sure you're doing T2 micro. If you hover over this, you'll see micro instances are eligible for the AWS free tier. The first 12 months are for free. You get up to 750 micro instances each month. So after this class, let's say you run out of credits, you can go ahead and create a regular Amazon AWS account, and you'll get the first free months for free. In addition, now that you're in the Educate program, in the old days, you used to be able to ask for credits every year. So you get $100 credits every year as a student. I don't know if they still have that system, but if they don't, you can still get the first free months for free. Now, 750 hours is exactly what you need. So if you have one server running for 30 days, okay, it's going to be 720 hours. Let's say the month has 31 days. In some cases, it does. You'll be right at 744 hours. So that's why they put it at 750 hours. So you can run one server for free. In addition to this class, if you do not want to run out of credits, you can only have one server running. You don't need to start up a new server every assignment. You can have one server running the entire semester for all the assignments. In fact, in 4830, we use one server to have multiple websites, which can save a lot of money. So you can have two domains pointing to the same website, to the same server. And we'll go over that in 4830. You'll see it has one CPU, 1 GB of memory. It's a small server, but it's enough. I'm going to click on next. These are going to be left the default. Okay, in cloud computing and networking, you'll go over subnets, you'll go over IP addresses. This is web development. I want to focus on getting up a server and putting a website on it and having a database on it. Okay, so some of these are important, but it's material for another class. So leave these all as default values and then click on next, add storage. Don't jump to the end. Click on next, add storage, because you'll see here the default size is 8 GB. Now, if you watched my previous video, I left the size to 8, but a lot of students are running out of space. They'll upload a bunch of photos, videos for their assignment, and then all of a sudden they're out of space on their server and their server's crashing. They don't know why. We go on, we log on, I say, oh, you're out of memory. And then we have to increase the size later. So if you picked 8 because you watched one of my previous videos, that's okay. We can modify this size later. But if you haven't done this yet, I recommend you put 25 or get up to as close as 30 as possible. You'll see free tier eligible customers can get up to 30 GB of SSD storage for free for the first 12 months. So I usually try to stay around that size so I can keep the price down as much as possible. If you selected 8, that's fine. I'll do 25. You can even do 30, but I think let's just stick to 25. That way I don't go over. If you put 30 there, you'd probably be fine too. I always select delete on termination. If you don't have this selected, when you stop the instance or when you terminate the instance, you'll still have to pay for this storage. So you'll get a bill for like $2 a month and you'll wonder why. And it's because you still have some storage there. So if you ever terminate your instance, make sure it also deletes the storage. This is important. If I were on a production server and I had a lot of sensitive information, valuable information, I may not select this because I have a lot of valuable data. But for the class, the main thing is we don't want to get charged when we terminate the server later. I'm going to click on next. You will add a tag because if you have multiple servers running, it's good to put names on them. So I'm going to put 2830 web server and I'm going to put Spring 21. You can just put 2830 web server. Always give your server a name. If you look at my regular AWS console, I might have 5 or 6 servers running. And if you were to have 5 or 6 servers running, you don't want to know it based off the IP. Oh, this is my server IP 18.217.78 212. It'd be better to say, oh, this is my 2830 web server. This is my personal web server. This is my company's web server. And that way you can distinguish between them. And I'm going to name my instances, my volumes, and my interfaces with this name. I'm going to click on next. For your security group, this is important here. You want SSH, which is port 22. This is a port you need to know for the exam. That's a common port. That's something that you need to know and memorize. You need to know HTTP is port 80. So open this up on your server and also memorize these ports. You're also going to need HTTPS. Okay, so make sure you select HTTPS, and that's port 443. Now you're going to notice custom. There are a bunch of zeros. This is basically allow HTTP and HTTPS from anywhere. Same with SSH. You can give this security group a name. Okay, maybe 2830 web server, but it's not required. So it just depends if you're going to use this later. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name. This is my 2830 security group. And I'm going to put the semester, although you don't have to. You can just put 2830 security group. These 3 ports are required. I selected anywhere. It's the same as custom. Okay, so it's the same as custom. As long as you have these zeros here, you're fine. And these are the 3 ports we're going to open. Now for 4830, we go deeper. We use Node.js, we use MongoDB, and we need to open up more ports. But for this class, these 3 ports are sufficient, and you need to memorize these ports. These ports will be on an exam. So SSH is 22, HTTP is 80, HTTPS is 443. Now we're at the end. So click review and launch. So I'm going to click this. Just kind of review it. Make sure you're using a T2 micro. That way you don't get over on your credits. Make sure everything's set up correctly. The storage looks good. I got my tags there. That looks good. I'm going to launch. This is the most important part of the session, which is your key pair. If you lose this key pair, it's going to be really difficult to get back into your server. When AWS first started, it was impossible to get back into your server if you lost this key. And I saw they have some videos. It looks like you can get back in, but it's a pain in the butt. So make sure you save this key. We're going to create a new key pair, and we're going to call this 2830-key pair. Now I'm going to put Spring 21, although you can just leave it as 2830 key pair. Now you're going to download this to your local machine, but make sure you also put it in a good spot, like on the cloud. Okay, put it on the cloud, put it on a flash drive. Even a flash drive is not safe because you may lose the flash drive. So make sure you put it in a good location on your local, and make sure you also put it somewhere on the cloud. So I recommend opening up Google Drive or OneDrive, wherever you're storing your info, and throw it up there real quick. And don't wait. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. So go ahead and do it now so you don't forget. Put it up on the OneDrive, come back, and click on launch. Make sure you put it in a good location. This key pair is the most important thing to get access to your server. It's essentially your password. If you look at the quiz, it talks about the public and private key. This is a PIM file, PEM. Okay, it's your private key file. It's essentially your password to allow you to get onto your server. You'll see it even says here, store in a secure and accessible location. You will not be able to download the file again after it's created. You only get access to it once. So I downloaded it. I'm going to click launch. It's up on my OneDrive, on my Google Drive, so I'm safe. And I'm going to click on view instances. Okay, you'll see it's pending. I've sat here for 10 minutes before, and it still says pending. You got to keep clicking refresh, or even refresh the entire page. Okay, it may take a little bit to get it going. Usually the Amazon Linux instances are really quick. You'll see I clicked refresh and now it says running. I could have waited there for a few more minutes and it may have finally switched to running, or you just keep clicking refresh here. Now that I have an instance running, I'm ready to go. I can SSH. You'll see I have a public DNS. I can actually go to this and visit it on the web. I have an IP address. I can click on my server. I can click on connect if I wanted to stop it. I can stop the instance. If you stop an instance, you will still be charged. You have to terminate the instance. The reason why is because if you stop an instance, the volume is still there, which is the storage. So you'll still be charged for the storage. When you terminate, it'll delete the volume since we selected that option. If you didn't select the option, if you terminate the instance, you'll still have to pay money. So you got to make sure you terminate the instance and the volume. That's important. We're going to connect to this server, but we're going to do it in the next video. In order to connect, they have a few options here now. They actually have it on your browser. Okay, so if I click on browser, I've tried it several times. I haven't got it to work. I've gotten it to work on a Windows server. I've also gotten it to work on an Amazon Linux server. I have not gotten it to work on Ubuntu. I think there's a few more steps you have to take if you want to be able to connect to SSH through the browser. Okay, this is through the browser. We're going to be doing it through our SSH client. This is the traditional way. And I actually like using my client because it's my terminal. I'm familiar with its commands. It's easy to copy and paste. A lot of times if you try to connect to it in the browser, copying and pasting is not as easy as it is in your own SSH client. So I actually prefer this way. And it also allows you to get access to the PIM file and do a regular SSH command, which is an important command to learn when you're learning programming. We're going to go over this in the next video. So congratulations, you now have a web server running on Amazon AWS. It seems difficult, but it's not. We're running Ubuntu 18. We're going to SSH to the server and install a LAMP stack. Stick with Professor Wergeles, and we'll see you in the next video.